As the single "California Girls" by the Beach Boys was at the top of the music charts, people began to question everything that they knew. They questioned religion, politics, the war. They changed social norms, music, and art. The baby boomer generation, which are babies born right after World War II, were the ones who were most determined to change the rules of life as their parents knew it.
Well, East Coast girls are hip. I really dig those styles they wear. And the Southern girls with the way they talk, they knock me out when I'm down there.
In 1960, I was 23. I had a daughter who was born in 59. And in 1962, I had a son born who happens to be your father. I did not work, and my life was very good.
Okay. What was your personal viewpoint on the Vietnam War?
Well, in the early 60s, I had no real viewpoint on it because I had just really gotten out of college a couple of years before that, and it wasn't full-blown. By that time, all they had in Vietnam were what they called advisors.
Yeah.
We weren't, our boys were not fighting. I had a friend who went in from the ROTC program, and he married one of my sorority sisters, and they had in very quick succession 3 children, 3 little boys. And his father had been a colonel, and John was a lieutenant. And he was on a boat in Saigon Harbor on a patrol boat, and a sniper shot him in the head, killed him, of course. And that was a great shock because I had not paid much attention to it. It wasn't big news. And I knew Anne, my sorority sister, left with 3 babies, really. And that was when my awareness sharpened as to what was going on.
War advisors in Vietnam are military men who are there to train and assist the South Vietnamese Army. The U.S. got involved in the Vietnam War because we wanted to help stop the spread of communism in Vietnam. In 1954, the French government finally pulled out of Vietnam and gave up their colony. The general democratic election was supposed to happen in 1956, and it would reunite the country under one government. The United States freaked out and refused to agree to the election because they didn't want the communists to win. The U.S. then teamed up with South Vietnam and carried out the election only in South Vietnam, where communism wasn't as strong, rather than all over the country.
Grandpa Woody, it was a very, very different situation. He had gone to medical school right out of Yale, finished it, and went after his residency, an internship, I believe it was, he went immediately into the Army, and I believe he went in 66, 7, and 8 in those years, and he was a surgeon on the front lines in what you would probably call a MASH unit, where they brought the helicopters in, and he was in a triage hospital situation.
What's a triage hospital scene?
Triage is where he would have to make a decision of the seriousness of the wounds, and if the very obvious wounds were such that no one could survive them, that was one thing. If their wounds were immediate need, they would be the first to go into the surgical table. Those that could wait would wait.
Or did the government try and recruit a lot of
men? No, the draft was on them.
Oh.
You didn't have to recruit, you simply drafted.
Oh.
Young men got a number, and when their number came up, they were called to service. They had no choice. So the draft was done away with quite a bit later than that.
Yeah.
But in the 60s, it was just everybody who went either volunteered or they were drafted. If you were in ROTC on a college campus, then you had to give 2 years of service. If you were drafted, I believe it was 2 years then that you had to stay in the military.
Did people like the draft, or like were a lot of people against it?
Nobody likes the draft.
So everyone was against it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, who wants to be drafted out of their life and thrown into a whole new world? I mean, no, the draft was never popular.
Yeah. By November of 1967, U.S. casualties had reached 15,058 killed and 109,527 wounded. 400,000 people gathered to protest the war in New York City. By December, 500,000 Americans were still stationed in Vietnam. The war protests reached a peak by 1968. It was mainly college kids and other students who were participating in the protests, but soon many more people were getting involved. Direct U.S. involvement ended on August 15, 1973, because of the Case-Church Amendment passed by our Congress. At the end of the war, 58,220 United States soldiers were killed, and 3 million innocent Vietnamese people had died. Like Life magazine says, the 1960s was the decade when everything changed.